Welcome back to the Terebelo Grognac Studio. Today's topic is all about the cask, all the different forms, different types of barrels used, and their effect on your whiskey or said favorite drinks. Some people have a passion for bourbon, some people have a passion for scotch, but then you can get more exotic. You have Ricky, you have Grappa, which wasn't aged for quite a while, for many years. In addition, you have, well, that's now a standard, a tequila, a mezcal, a rum. The list goes on and on. Listen up. Anything that basically has sugar in it, like I said in the last show, can be aged. But how do we get to the aging? And why did we go there? Simply, the reason why we got to aging was transportation. You would take it, you would go ahead, put it into a barrel, and transport it. It was easier than transporting straight sugar. Now, let's approach your local Cooper. At that point, he wasn't known as the Cooper. He was most likely known as the one that made, anything of wood, practically. Be it your dining room table to your chairs to your house. If it was wood, it was him. And he was charged with making your barrel. Obviously, he would go ahead and take the local wood. The concept of, transporting wood like we do today for the best type of whiskey, pretty certain if you went back to the early 1900s, definitely late 17, 1800s, would be quite idiotic. You have trees all over the place. Cut down the trees, cut them up, and make a barrel. Flavors, types of woods, that will come with time. Leakage, that will come with time. Every, the learning curve would be there. Let's just look at the basic pictures. Maybe I'll post them on Grogmag on our website. The basic pictures were, unlike today where they put on these metal hoops, they would wrap it around with rope. They will cut it up and wrap it around with rope. Now there is an art to making a whiskey, combining the different staves. Sorry, with they'll get wider in the middle and narrower. You would have to put them all together to make the barrel. We'll go through on our next show the names of every part of the barrel. Um, there's no reason to get into that just yet. The barrel staves. How do they get to that shape? Every wood, like every fiber, has a different way of taking it apart, of cutting it up. The two classic ways um, of barrels today, the French oak, in truth, really, in extension, the European oak, is done by hand. You have to hit it and it splits. The reason being, it's a very soft wood. You need it to split naturally along its paths, ways to keep what would be like a vein, the fiber that makes it waterproof, intact. There's just not that much of it because it's so porous. Um, the American oak is milled. You just cut it into sheets, and you just run with that. Once you cut it to size, I'm sure the more sophisticated cooperages already have lasers and you whatnot to figure all of this out. Um, so those are very your two main forms of cooperages in use. Then what's used by cooperages. Then there's a Mizunara oak, which we will also discuss, the Japanese oak. I'm sure you've seen Scotch, Irish, all different whiskeys finished in it. That actually has a fascinating history. So let's go back. You take your local wood, you take your local tree, you cut it up, you pour your alcohol in for transport. The most prevalent oak where the distillers were was American oak. American oak, the porousness of it is not high at all. It makes it great for fishing boats, which it was used for many years, and I would say did a great job holding alcohol. You cut it up, but how do you get it to bend? The basic way, well, you could force it. But if you heat it, you soak it with water any which way, you will then get it to bend. You use a heating element to get its shape. Same for the French oak, which is very interesting. The American oak, which is used in bourbon and whiskeys, you use it by blow torturing it. Those standards 5 levels of heat or of length of time to charring, depending on your distillery, cooperage, will then go ahead and label it accordingly. There's absolutely no consistency across cooperages. One place is 3 will be equal to another place is 2, or another place is 4. So don't even bother trying to make sense out of it. But once you know your cooperage, you can run with theory. In Europe, the most prevalent way, and again, their wood is a softer wood, it's more porous. There's a different way of taking care of their oak, preparing it for the spirits, the Calvados, the Cognac, the Armagnac, whatever those unique French spirits are, to get them ready to hold those alcohols, and that's toasting. Both of them lend very different flavors to the spirits because of the process. When you heat it up, there's sugars that are released from the wood. So toasting will release it in one format, and fire, the heat will release it in another format. Obviously, you could try this at home. Burn your sugar. Take sugar, put it in a pot, a little water, and burn it, caramelize. Obviously, you'll see it comes with it creates a different product. Another interesting byproduct of what takes place is when you char, you make charcoal. Charcoal is a natural filter. You use charcoal filtered, you'll see sometimes on a vodka. It removes flavoring. It makes it a purer spirit, less flavor, which is very interesting to note, as many times you would think, hey, let's try this hotter, or this is so dark, it must be aged for so long. Well, it could be a more intense char, which leaves you less of a flavor. The lighter whiskey, the lighter spirit, may be older. However, it might have been on a lower char, which gives it a different color. And that different color, but will be lighter, but will give you much more different notes, many different notes of flavoring. That's because when the alcohol enters the wood and then comes back out of the wood, there is no charcoal to filter out any of those fine notes that are being taken out of the wood. In addition, when you toast or use a lighter char, even though there's a totally different, but let's just for a second so you can put them together, you create like let's look at bread. When you toast it, when it's a lighter toast, you'll see there's different layers and it goes further in, it's a lighter cook. But when you char, you go boom and burn the whole thing, but then the other side is raw. So when you toast or lighter char, which is almost a toast, just above a toast, you are giving more options. Just like if you eat a piece of bread with a lighter toast, you have more flavor nuances throughout. So too, when you use a toaster char, a light char, there are more nuanced flavors throughout the oak. When the alcohol travels out into the oak and then comes back into the barrel, it will bring those in. That is something to keep in mind. Another fascinating thing, when you have a more porous wood, the flavor will cremate the alcohol much quicker. Obviously, there's more room, more movement that could take place. It could go in quicker, it could come out quicker. American oak will take more time to give its flavor, and French oak will give much less time. Will happen much quicker, the coloring, the flavoring that a whiskey gets. So, these are your two most dynamic oaks that are used. They blend them in different barrels in different ways. Sometimes you get 25, 75, different char levels for different staves. But these are your two main oaks in use. Both of them, their heritage is very much correlates with the regions that are creating those spirits, and they've perfected the art with the oak. Next week we will discuss, Hashem, the Mizunara oak, the oak used in Japan, as well as a few of the alternative whiskey oaks used for whiskeys, and European oak, which is very French oak, and the little nuances. Looking forward to a great week 3. Thank you for listening. Stay tuned.